Hello everyone, welcome to Gypsy Jazz Fridays, episode 20. And in this episode we're going to take a look at the song China Boy as a solo guitar player. I recently made an episode for my Christian's Rhythm Workout series, in which we were taking a look at this song as a rhythm player. And if you didn't see that episode, there's a link to that episode in the description. And I thought it would be nice to make a video to check out what you could be doing as a solo player. So what I did is, just like I did with the song I See in My Dreams, I collected a series of licks that would give you one, let's say, route through the changes of China Boy. And the point of it is that you learn these phrases and that you also start varying the phrases to come up with your own little variations while you are improvising on China Boy. So let's just start with the first phrase. China Boy starts with 6 bars of F6. So let's start looking at this long phrase in F. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. It starts with this really fun Clifford quote. Now we're going into kind of a bebop phrase with enclosures. F major 7 the pecho. Typical Gypsy Jazz phrase. And then chromatically up to connect to the next chord, the D7. So how do you vary a phrase like this? So first of all, you don't have to play everything. You could just be playing the beginning. Right, so I put some extra rest in between the Clifford Brown phrase and the bebop enclosures, and then phrase the bebop enclosures a little bit differently. Or you could just play the second part. Right, there's many things you could do to vary it. You could maybe play some notes before. You could change the rhythms. Or you could just play parts of the lick. Let's see what this lick sounds like on the backing track of China Boy. The backing track you can find on my channel. There's a link to that in the description. Let's try a little variation where I just play the first lick, the Clifford Brown lick, maybe with a little bit of the enclosures after it. Let's try something where we start with the enclosures and then maybe play the Clifford Brown lick after the enclosures. So that's what I mean with varying. You don't have to be super creative to do it, you just experiment with it. Let's take a look at the next phrase. And by the way, this phrase is 6 bars, so these were the first 4 bars. Here are bar 5 and 6. And if you want to download all these steps, you can download them from my Patreon. As always, there's a link to my Patreon in the description. Now let's go to the next phrase. So it's 2 bars at D7, and this starts on beat 1, but of course we have this, which was part of the previous phrase, but it's actually part of this phrase. It's kind of an up bar. So I'll start there. 1, 2, 3. So the B is the first note of the next bar. Again, 1, 2, 3. So what is happening here? We're playing a C minor 6 arpeggio. And C minor 6 is something that fits really nicely over D7 chord. Even though there's a G in it and not an F sharp. So what you're actually playing is sus flat 9, D7 sus flat 9, or it's C minor with a D in the bass. And there's only one note different with D7 flat 9 when you have this F sharp. But it's just because it's such a strong sound and strong structure, it sounds fine to play C minor 6 on top of D7. And then we're going down to a B, because I want to be on a B for G7, next chord. So I'm just playing some triplets. I could also do it chromatically, but now I do it in kind of a scale. That's just a guitar trick, but it sounds really nice. Django used to do it all the time as well. So how do we vary this? Well, we could play the C minor 6 arpeggio up, right? Of course, we have to change the lick before, but that's what we could do. We could play down then up. We could change the rhythms. We could play notes in front of it. We could play notes after it. It's the usual thing. So let's play the first two phrases on top of the backing track. So I'll start with the F phrase and then going into this D7 phrase. Let's put the backing track a little bit louder. Now let me try varying the ideas more. So I'm not going to play the exact phrases, maybe play some F major 7 arpeggio, maybe the Clifford Brown lick, and then play C minor 6. Let's go to the next lick. It's 4 bars of G7 which sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. So it's a really nice bebop-y phrase with some altered stuff in there. Doesn't really matter. It's a good phrase to play over a long dominant chord with lots of interesting harmonic stuff. Don't think too much about that stuff. Just a good phrase to get in your fingers and play on other songs with long dominant chords like Joseph Joseph or Sweet Georgia Brown. And of course you don't have to play the whole phrase when you're improvising. You could play the second half or maybe the first half or change it around. You could start with the second half. Right, that sounds fine too. So let's play this phrase with the backing track. And then before, I'll improvise with the elements we had before, right? Like the Clifford Brown thing and the C minor 6. Let's do another solo, and then I won't play this phrase exactly, and I'll just improvise a little bit with the elements. One more time, try some different stuff. Maybe I'll try to start with the second half when I hit the G7. Let's go to C7. In fact, it's B flat minor 6, C7, F6, or you could play G half diminished, C7, 6, or you could just play 2 bars of C7 altered. Whatever you want to think about as a solo player. That's what I did basically. I thought of 2 bars C7 altered with a phrase that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. So So it's basically a D flat diminished arpeggio, starting with a kind of a embellishment, with a really nice resolution to F, kind of a standard resolution, but it's a nice one. It sounds great, and there are some quarter notes in it, which always sounds great after you've done a lot of eighth notes. Really strings. So how could you vary this? You could maybe move it in time, start later, maybe start on the second beat, 3, 4, 1. Or you could start on the third beat, or you could just play the diminished arpeggio starting on a later note, like maybe on E, or on G, or just play the high E string part, repeating. Lots of options. So I'm gonna play with the backing track from the beginning, and then when I'm here, I'm gonna play this phrase exactly, but before I might improvise. One more time, different improvisation, and now I will also improvise with the last phrase. And then on the E flat 7 bar is empty here because we're gonna go to the bridge, which is an A flat, but then I would suggest maybe play a chord, or you could do a rest. Maybe you could play something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that, like just a standard E flat 7, or maybe this one, or even. Then we're going to go to A flat, the bridge. The bridge is basically 7 bars of A flat, and even though it says A flat, E flat 7, A flat, E flat 7, that's more for the rhythm guitar playing. But as a solo player, I'm basically thinking A flat all the time, or I could be thinking E flat 7 to A flat, but it doesn't really have to be at the same time that the rhythm guitar player is doing that. So I chose for this long jungle phrase, which is really nice, sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's more stuff after it, but let's start with this one. And these are my fingerings. If you find this difficult, you could come up with some different fingerings, and there's many possibilities, but I like this because it's very easy to move this shape around, right? In C. It's very easy for me to visualize. That's why I use these fingerings. There's a little bit of stretching involved, but it's really doable. And then I continue the phrase just with this A flat major arpeggio up. Just for fun, so you can practice it, A flat major arpeggio. And then there's a phrase going to F. Now, it's pretty tricky to play all of this in a row. First play that jangle phrase, and then play that big A flat major arpeggio, and then the transition to F. So maybe you shouldn't play all of it. It's pretty hard to pull it off and not make any mistakes. You just could play the jangle phrase and then play the transition to F, or you could just play the A flat major arpeggio, or you could play half of the jangle phrase. And then play the arpeggio, right? Stuff like that. So I'm gonna play the bridge. Well, I'm gonna play everything, but at the bridge, I'll make a choice of what I play. But now you know the ingredients. And then the last 4 bars. Sorry, it's the last 8 bars. 2 bars of F, 2 bars of G sharp diminished, and then a 2 5 1 to F. So F, G sharp, 2 5 1. So there's several things you can do. You could just play F, and then for G sharp diminished you could play a G sharp diminished arpeggio. Or you could be thinking E7 altered. That works great. You could also start with the diminished sound earlier and play a diminished scale for 4 bars. And that's basically what I did. I played a pattern. And then I'm going to... So I'm doing a diminished scale pattern. And then just some diminished arpeggio with chromatic notes in between. Going to... That's something I would play over E7 altered. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's also something that I would play on E7 altered anyway. So you could think of it as everything is E7 altered. So I'm just skipping the F6, thinking about G sharp diminished, and what would I be playing over G sharp diminished when the song is in F? I would be playing E7 altered. If you don't understand that theoretically, I made a long video about music theory. It's linked in the description. And there's a chapter in there on diminished chords where I explain this principle. For now, just let's learn this lick. And then let's also do the next 4 bars, which is just a 2-5-1 lick. 1, 2, 3, 4. So together, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's play the whole song, and I'll improvise, and then I'll play parts of this final 8 bars. Maybe I'll do 2 choruses, and then you can hear how I would improvise with these materials and how I can make 2 different sounding choruses. Just like that. Now I realize the tempo is fast and some of these licks are pretty challenging, but take it slow. You don't have to play everything that's in here. It's just some ideas, and you can use all of these ideas in other songs as well, of course. If you want to download these tabs, again, there's my Patreon. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. If you don't like the video, hit the thumbs down button twice. It's always lame when people say that, but it's also kind of funny. And then maybe you want to subscribe to my channel, and I will see all of you in the next video. Bye!